evening and welcome to the April 4th, 2017 regular Salem City Council meeting. It will now come to order. The invocation by Steve Faber from the Parks Department, and please remain standing then for the Pledge of Allegiance.
Let us pray. Heavenly Father, we give thanks for all that you give to us. We're grateful for the blessings that we know. We're grateful for the protection that we know as individuals and as a community. We look at the TV and we see all the other communities that are devastated by hurricanes and weather and floods and mudslides. We're so grateful that you have protected us, and we ask that you keep that hedge of protection around each of our citizens, all the citizens. And we could certainly stand here and say, we like this one, we don't like that one, but in the end, Father, we're all a community and we're all together. And we're grateful that you're part of it, and we're grateful that you put us here. Thank you for giving us the wisdom that we have, the talents that you've given us, and we pray that we use them wisely, Father. We use them in a way that pleases you and that makes this community a better place to live. Father, thank you for giving us again the wisdom. We ask that you would bestow it upon these folks around this table, that as they make decisions, they would do it with compassion and with kindness, and that they would do it, Father, in a way, again, that pleases you, because it's all about serving you by serving others.
Thank you for being our friend and for your love that never ends. It's in Jesus' name we pray. Amen.
Amen. I pledge allegiance
To the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Madam Clerk, will you please call the roll?
Mr. Brown?
Present.
Mrs. Dickey?
Here.
Mr. Gall?
Present.
Mrs. Mancuso?
Here.
Mr. Knoll?
Present.
Mr. Paparotis?
Present.
Mr. Whitehill?
Here.
All right, everybody's received a copy of the minutes from the March 21st, 2017 meeting. Are there any additions, corrections, or deletions to those minutes? Seeing none, we stand as approved. There are no petitions and remonstrances this evening. And I do not believe that we have any receiving of visitors this evening either. Fred, no? Okay. Move on then to report of city officials. Mayor Berlin.
Thank you, Mr. President. I would like to remind all city residents that if they have leaves that they have yet to pick up from last fall, as long as they have the paper bags which were distributed last fall, the street department will be picking them up until April 15th. This is since we had paved over 10 miles of streets last summer. The street department has time, which is normally spent patching chuck holes. So a byproduct of doing paving is the fact that they do have more time. I hope April 15th is a good date for everyone. There is some bad weather coming up, but maybe between now and then, you'll be able to get out there and get your rake and get some of that debris hauled away by the city. There is no set schedule for it. As the trucks are around and they have time, they will be picking them up. So there isn't any particular day, but they'll be looking for them probably after the weekends are over with. So I saw them out today just picking up randomly ones that were placed outside. Mr. Kenst is on vacation for the next week or so, and so I'd also entertain any questions that you may have for him when it's his time. Does anyone have any questions for me in my mayor's position at this time?
Seeing none, thank you.
Thank you.
Law Director, Attorney Zellers.
Thank you, Mr. President. I have no report this evening. However, I would ask for an executive session concerning a litigation issue. Thank you.
Is there a motion for that? Mr. Whitehill, is there a second? Mr. Brown? Madam Clerk, will you please call the roll?
Mr. Brown?
Yes.
Mrs. Dickey?
Yes.
Mr. Gall?
Yes.
Mrs. Mancuso?
Yes.
Mr. Knoll?
Yes.
Mr. Paparotis?
Yes.
Mr. Whitehill?
Yes.
All right, there will be an executive session, and as I've said so many times before, we'll conduct that at the end of the meeting. It's my understanding from our law director, there'll be no action taken at that time, so no one needs to stick around if they don't want to, because there won't be anything to report with that. Any questions for the law director? Seeing none, thank you. Auditor, Mrs. Brothers?
Thank you, Mr. President, members of council, Mayor Berlin. I just wanted to come here and see if anybody had any questions regarding the ordinance that I'm asking for you to pass tonight regarding the second phase of borrowing funds for street project.
Any questions for Mrs. Brothers with regards to that? Number one, Mr. Gall.
Ma'am, it's my understanding that the reason this is being brought tonight is because the note itself matures on what, the 15th?
April 18th,
April 18th.
which means our next meeting is April 18th, but we would have to have funding already in place before then.
And once again, the bond is to replace the note.
It's a one-year, this is a one-year issuance as well. We're doing one-year notes each year until hopefully after the 5th year, then we do no longer have a note because the income tax had
But again,
satisfied the
This
debt.
bond replaces that note.
This is the note, and it's replacing the other note, yes.
Okay, I thought it was a bond, I'm sorry.
No, that's okay.
Any other questions for Mrs. Brothers with regards to this particular issue? Seeing none, are there any other questions as to any other issues for Mrs. Brothers? Seeing none, thank you.
Thank you.
Mayor, you're going to report for Mr. Kent's?
That, the leaf pickup was primarily going to be part of his report. So if there are any other questions regarding safety director, service department, I'd try to answer them if I could.
Mr. Chairman,
Mr.
Your Honor,
Gall.
are all 4 houses going to be brought down on one contract? Did you?
Yes,
let us know?
there's one contractor that's been primarily hired by the land bank to perform those tasks. They find it much less expensive than trying to have 4 or 5 different ones.
Have they given you a time frame?
Other than what was in the paper last week, it's still pending, but I do not have a date. Nobody's given me a date at this point.
Any other questions for the mayor with regards to safety service? Seeing none, thank you. Utilities, Matt Hoops?
Mr. President, members of council, honorable mayor, I want to apologize to Pro Tem for not formally recognizing the chair. I was so excited to speak last month. Just got up here and went at it, so please accept my apology. You'll have an ordinance from Mr. Gall for utility, allow the Utilities Commission to advertise for bids and enter contract for the water line replacement projects on Fairview Court, Carroll Drive, and Home Circle, and North Ellsworth in advance of the street paving project. And the only other thing I have is commission will meet next Thursday, the 20th at 4 PM in commission chambers.
Any questions for Mr. Hoops? Seeing none, thank you.
Thank you.
Parks Director, Mr. Faber?
Thank you, Mr. President, Mayor Berlin, members of council. First, let me start off by apologizing, Mr. Paparotis, if you were going to do some of this in your report, I apologize. But I was asked to speak about the park levy. As you know, there's an ordinance or resolution this evening, and I don't know whether you're going to do the second and third or just the second reading, that is going to be brought forward, and that is to help operate the Parks Department. Most of you are aware that we operate on park levies. We do not get money out of the general fund for operating costs. We are asked for the renewal of a 1 mil levy and the addition of 3.3 mills added to that. We chose that method because if we went to a replacement levy, there are certain discounts that the governor has done away with, and those would be done, they would disappear. So we have asked for the 1 mil renewal with a 3.3 mil additionals. The homeowner of a $100,000 home, and that's the number we always use, it seems like it's a pretty fair average. And I know that some neighborhoods have $300,000 and $400,000 homes, and some only have $60,000 homes. So we use $100,000 so that we can talk. And if somebody needs some more information, they certainly can call my office. I'm glad to answer any questions anyone has. Just call me and we'll take care of those. A homeowner with a $100,000 home would pay $29.59 per year. That would be an increase because of the 0.3 mils. That would be an increase of $10.50 per year. So I think it's a pretty good value for 6 parks and all the acreage that we mow and so on. If the levy certainly doesn't pass, we're gonna be in dire straits and we'll be lucky to get just the mowing done. But I'm going to count on the support from all of you and all the citizens, and we will continue my pledge of always trying to get the greatest impact for taxpayers' dollars. That has been my mantra since I've been here, and I don't intend to change that. I'm here to serve the citizens of this community and do the best I can for them. And I don't get to do the things I want because I'm not doing it for me, I'm doing it for them. If anyone has any questions, I'd be glad to answer them.
Mr. Paparotis?
So the .3 mil is for the increase in expenses?
The increase in expenses, and what it does is also brings it back to a true 1 mil levy.
Okay.
As the
Because we
life
lost
of
it on the
levy.
other side?
I'm sorry?
Because we lost some of that on the other
Yes,
side?
yes.
Okay, thank you.
And we were very careful to preserve the discounts that were already there, so we didn't want to do that.
Thank you.
You're welcome.
Any other questions? Mr. Favor?
Thank you.
Seeing none, thank you.
You're welcome.
Council Clerk, Mrs. Bricker?
Thank you.
All right, that concludes the report of city officials. Move on to report of standing committees. Finance, Mr. Whitehill.
Thank you, Mr. President. My committee has not met. I have no report. However, we do have a meeting scheduled for this Thursday, April 6th at 7 p.m. in council chambers. On the agenda is the appropriation ordinance, temporary firefighter, and also increasing wages for a new non-bargaining lieutenant. We had a resolution that was prepared for tonight, which was prepared for possible opposition to the governor's new plan of business tax collection. I would like to move that to finance and add it to the agenda for this Thursday. I believe there's more discussion and input that needs to take place on that.
All right, do we need any vote on that, or?
No, because it hasn't come.
All right. All right, that would have been
22.
number 22, so we will go ahead and move that to finance so that we can have further discussion there. You do have number 21, which is dealing with the issuance and sale not to exceed 3.6 million of notes for the city.
That's correct, and I would also certainly encourage all council members who are available that would like to attend the finance meeting so we can have some of that dialogue regarding that possible opposition letter.
Okay, very good. Thank you. Streets, alleys, and sidewalks, Mr. Brown?
Thank you, Mr. President. My committee has not met, and I have no good reason to schedule one at this time.
Very good. Utilities, Mr. Gall?
Thank you, Mr. President. The Utilities Committee did meet this evening. All members were present. Unanimously have submitted to City Council the ordinance in which Mr. Hoops was referring to. Is that now 22 instead of 23?
Just leave it at 20. You can switch that to 22 then, that's fine.
Okay. I'm sorry, Mr. President, in addition to that, there's some other matters that were brought to the
committee, which we're going to discuss in 2 weeks at 6:30 prior to the city council meeting. There are 2 ordinances that are being drafted at the moment, and we'll be asked to review that at that time. So I will ask for the utility committee meeting 2 weeks from today at 6:30.
Yeah, very good, thank you. Traffic and safety, Mrs. Mancuso?
Thank you, Mr. President. My committee has not met, and I have no report.
Rules and ordinances, Mrs. Dickey?
My committee has not met. We had a tentative schedule for tomorrow evening for Rules and Ordinance, but we're going to move that to the 11th at 6:30. And it is to talk about amending the accessory building rule and the IPMC, and also possibly a business proposal from an area resident for the industrial park.
Very good. Parks, Mr. Paparotis?
My committee did not meet, and I have no report, but I do have a second for the resolution, and we have to approve the changes from the last one.
Want to wait till that comes up for him to make the change?
Yeah, that would be
All right,
Thank you.
thank you. Economic Development, Mr. Knoll?
Thank you, Mr. President. My committee has not met. As a result, I have no report.
Committee of the Whole, Mr. Whitehill?
Thank you, Mr. President. Committee has not met. I have no report.
All right, that concludes the report of standing committees. We'll move on to second and third reading of ordinances and resolutions. Mr. Whitehill on ordinance 12.
Thank you, Mr. President. I move that the clerk read ordinance 12 by title only for its third reading this evening.
All right. Madam Clerk, would you please read ordinance number 12 by title only for its third reading this evening?
Being an ordinance authorizing the Director of Public Service and Safety to advertise for bids and enter into contract for the sale of one used 1997 one-ton Chevy dump truck and one used 2000 Ford F-250 Super Duty pickup truck and declaring an emergency.
All right, is there any discussion? Seeing none, Madam Clerk, would you please call the roll on ordinance number 12 for passage this evening?
Mr. Whitehill?
Yes.
Mr. Paparotis?
Yes.
Mr. Knoll?
Yes.
Mrs. Mancuso?
Yes.
Mr. Gall?
Yes.
Mrs. Dickey?
Yes.
Mr. Brown?
Yes.
Ordinance number 12 passes with 7 yeas. Mr. Whitehill?
Thank you, Mr. President. I move that the clerk read ordinance 13 by title only for its third reading this evening for passage.
All right, Madam Clerk, would you please read ordinance number 13 by title only for passage this evening?
Being an ordinance authorizing the Director of Public Service and Safety to advertise for bids and enter into contract for the sale of two used 35-foot extension ladders.
All right, is there any discussion? Seeing none, Madam Clerk, would you please call the roll on ordinance number 13 for passage this evening?
Mr. Whitehill?
Yes.
Mr. Paparotis?
Yes.
Mr. Knoll?
Yes.
Mrs. Mancuso?
Yes.
Mr. Gall?
Yes.
Mrs. Dickey?
Yes.
Mr. Brown?
Yes.
All right, that passes with 7 yeas. Mrs. Dickey?
Thank you, Mr. President. I would like to ask, or make a motion to waive statutory rules so that ordinance 19 can be read for second and third readings tonight.
Is there a second on that? Mr. Gall? Madam Clerk, will you please call the roll?
Mr. Brown?
Yes.
Mrs. Dickey?
Yes.
Mr. Gall?
Yes.
Mrs. Mancuso?
Yes.
Mr. Knoll?
Yes.
Mr. Paparotis?
Yes.
Mr. Whitehill?
Yes.
All right, statutory rules are suspended. Mrs. Dickey?
Mr. President, would you please ask the clerk to read ordinance 19 by title only for passage tonight?
Madam Clerk, will you please read ordinance 19 by title only for its second and third readings this evening for passage?
Being an ordinance amending section 1187.07 of chapter 1187 of title 7 of part 11 of the codified ordinances of the city of Salem regarding exemptions to vacant structure registration.
Is there any discussion? Seeing none, Madam Clerk, will you please call the roll on ordinance 19 for passage this evening?
Mrs. Dickey?
Yes.
Mr. Gall?
Yes.
Mr. Brown?
Yes.
Mrs. Mancuso?
Yes.
Mr. Knoll?
Yes.
Mr. Paparotis?
Yes?
Mr. Whitehill?
Yes.
Passes with 7 yeas. Mr. Paparotis.
Thank you, Mr. President. I move that the council suspend we have to make the change first. I'd like to move to approve the changes made in Resolution 20.
If I may. Thank you, Mr. President. An updated version of resolution. I am Oz. the all-powerful. An updated version of Resolution 20 was sent out after the last meeting. Mrs. Brothers and I discovered some typographical errors in there that needed to be fixed so that the matter could be properly on the ballot. If you have the new one and compare it to your old one, you'll see that in several sections, including the title, we added the plus .3 tenths levy language there in Section 1, in Section 2, and also in Section 4. The only other change was in Section 1. The amount was changed to 10.03 cents, and that was also changed down in the ballot language. Those were the changes that Mr. Paparotis is referring to.
With those being considered typographical, do we need the council rules suspended then?
We would not. We'd simply need a majority to accept those changes.
All right. Madam Clerk, will you please call the roll?
Do we need a second? Or no?
Second for Mr. Whitehill.
Mr. Brown?
Yes.
Mrs. Dickey?
Yes.
Mr. Gall?
Yes.
Mrs. Mancuso?
Yes.
Mr. Knoll?
Yes.
Mr. Paparotis?
Yes?
Mr. Whitehill?
Yes.
All right, that the amendments pass with regards to that, or actually I should say the amendments with the corrections to the typographical errors. Mr. Paparotis.
So I move that council rules suspend?
I
No?
don't believe that we'll need to do that.
Then we
with
go
this.
right to the second reading?
If it's the second reading that you want, we can move and go to that then. And that's what you're
Okay.
asking for?
Yeah, it's for the second
Okay.
reading on Resolution 20.
All right, Madam Clerk, would you please read resolution number 20 by title only for its second reading this evening?
Being a resolution declaring it necessary to levy a tax in excess of the 10 mil limitation for the renewal of a 1 mil plus 3/10 levy for the recreational purposes.
All right, that concludes the second and third reading of ordinances and resolutions. We'll move on to introduction of ordinances and resolutions. Mr. Whitehill.
Thank you, Mr. President. I move to suspend council rules so that ordinance 21 can be considered this evening.
And is there a second on that? Mr. Knoll? Madam Clerk, will you please call the roll?
Mr. Whitehill?
Yes.
Mr. Paparotis?
Yes?
Mr. Knoll?
Yes.
Mrs. Mancuso?
Yes.
Mr. Gall?
Yes.
Mrs. Dickey?
Yes.
Mr. Brown?
Yes.
All right, council rules are suspended. Mr. Whitehill?
Thank you, Mr. President. I move to suspend statutory rules so that ordinance 21 can be given its first, second, and third reading this evening.
And is there a second on that? Mrs. Dickey? Madam Clerk, will you please call the roll?
Mr. Whitehill?
Yes.
Mr. Paparotis?
Yes?
Mr. Knoll?
Yes.
Mrs. Mancuso?
Yes.
Mr. Gall?
Yes.
Mrs. Dickey?
Yes.
Mr. Brown?
Yes.
All right, statutory rules are suspended. Mr. Whitehill?
Thank you, Mr. President. I move that the clerk read ordinance 21 by title only for its first, second, and third reading this evening with the emergency clause for passage.
Okay, Madam Clerk, will you please read ordinance number 21 by title only for its first, second, and third readings this evening with the emergency clause?
Being an ordinance to provide for the issuance and sale of not to exceed 3 million of notes of the city of Salem in anticipation of the issuance of bonds to pay the cost of constructing, reconstructing, and installing roadway and street improvements in the city, including grading, draining, curbing, and paving, and providing all other necessary appurtenances thereto, and declaring an emergency.
All right, is there any discussion? Seeing none, Madam Clerk, will you please call the roll on ordinance number 21 for passage this evening?
Mr. Whitehill?
Yes.
Mr. Paparotis?
Yes.
Mr. Knoll?
Yes.
Mrs. Mancuso?
Yes.
Mr. Gall?
Yes.
Mrs. Dickey?
Yes.
Mr. Brown?
Yes.
Ordinance number 21 passes with 7 yeas. Mr. Gall.
Thank you, Mr. President. I ask that council rules be suspended so ordinance number 22 can be passed this evening.
All right, is there a second on that? Mr. Knoll? Madam Clerk, will you please call the roll?
Mr. Whitehill?
Yes.
Mr. Paparotis?
Yes.
Mr. Knoll?
Yes.
Mrs. Mancuso?
Yes.
Mr. Gall?
Yes.
Mrs. Dickey?
Yes.
Mr. Brown?
Yes.
All right, council rules are suspended. Mr. Gall.
Thank you, Mr. President. I ask that the statutory rules be suspended for all 3 readings this evening.
All right, second on that by Mr. Whitehill. Madam Clerk, will you please call the roll?
Mr. Whitehill?
Yes.
Mr. Paparotis?
Yes.
Mr. Knoll?
Yes.
Mrs. Mancuso?
Yes.
Mr. Gall?
Yes.
Mrs. Dickey?
Yes.
Mr. Brown?
Yes.
Statutory rules are suspended. Mr. Gall.
Thank you, Mr. President. I ask for the reading, first, second, and third reading passage this evening with an emergency clause.
All right, Madam Clerk, will you please read ordinance number 22 by title only for its first, second, and third readings this evening with the emergency clause?
Being an ordinance authorizing the Salem Utilities Commission of the City of Salem, Ohio, to receive bids and enter into contracts to replace water mains on Carroll Drive, Fairview Court, part of Home Circle, and sections of North Ellsworth Avenue, and declaring an emergency.
Is there any discussion?
I have a question.
Mrs. Dickey?
Did we have the emergency clause in there
Yes.
before?
Well, this is the,
I don't recall if we had that in the ordinance or not before.
22.
Yeah.
It is in ordinance 22.
it is there.
And that's
Okay,
the ordinance
okay.
that came out of committee.
Okay.
Any further discussion? Seeing none, Madam Clerk, will you please call the roll on ordinance number 22 for passage this evening?
Mr. Whitehill?
Yes.
Mr. Paparotis?
Yes.
Mr. Knoll?
Yes.
Mrs. Mancuso?
Yes.
Mr. Gall?
Yes.
Mrs. Dickey?
Yes.
Mr. Brown?
Yes.
All right, passes with 7 yeas. That concludes introduction of ordinances and resolutions. Move on at this time to pleasure of council. Mr. Knoll?
I have nothing tonight, thank you.
Mhm.
Mrs. Dickey?
I would just like to say that the vacant structure ordinance is in place and has been in place. And so if you have a vacant structure anywhere within the city limits of Salem, you need to come forward and register that and make your plan as to what you're expected to do with that. Please don't make our zoning officers and firemen come out and seek you out. And if you do not do that in a timely fashion, there are penalties, and I would hate to see anybody incur those. We want to get this moving. Thank you.
All right, Mr. Brown?
I have nothing this evening, thank you.
All right, Mr. Gall?
Thank you, Mr. President. I'd like to take just a minute to congratulate Dr. Lori Lippiett. She just received, well, the National Optometric Association has selected 3 outstanding women in the country, and she was selected as one of the 3 outstanding women in that field, and she received a beautiful award and a marvelous ceremony that was held in New York City last week, and she is to be congratulated. It's nice that she's here in Salem, Ohio, and the world knows it.
Very good, thank you. Mr. Paparotis?
Hold on, give me 1 second here.
I'll move on to Mr. Whitehill.
Yeah.
I can't buy how much, I have nothing to say.
I'm trying to promote the Historical Society event, and I've forgotten the date on that. It's on the 27th,
25th.
25th. And just asking everyone to support it and be there if you can. It's a good cause.
All right, thank you. I have nothing this evening. We will adjourn out of the regular session, move into executive session. As I had stated earlier, there'll be no action taken with that, so when we come back, it'll just be to adjourn and then from the